Welcome back to another episode of Into the Airbnb. Today, I've spoken to an interesting Airbnb host named Becky. She's been an Airbnb host since 2011, and now she has four listings that are managed completely remotely, where she visits those properties only once a year. She is now hosting guests in her living room in a one-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C., which covers her monthly rent. So we are going to talk more about this specific listing in this episode. This episode is brought to you by Airbitix, a precise Airbnb analytics platform. If you're just getting started with Airbnb and want to find out objective information about occupancy rate and daily rate of your area, this is the app for you. What was your first Airbnb rental?
My first Airbnb rental was in San Francisco, California, about
Mhm.
2011,
Right.
for a one-bedroom studio
Yeah.
uh, in a apartment complex that had probably 50 units in Nob Hill, which is about a 10-minute walk from downtown San Francisco. It's probably about a 100-year-old building, one-bedroom studio with a Murphy bed, but a hot tub.
Interesting. So yeah, I saw that you have a very interesting listing right now at Washington, D.C., where you're actually staying as well. So when did you start that listing?
I started that back in September, so very recent, probably less than a year. And the reason why I started that is because I was in between jobs and I wanted to supplement my income, but I wasn't expecting any hits because I thought, who would really want to stay at an Airbnb in a shared one-bedroom den, 1,000 square foot? So if I wanted to make a listing, the only thing that I had going was a good location, right? I'm about two blocks away from the mall, all the free museums. And so I had to really think about my listing and how it's going to be different from everybody else. So that was just recent. And then since then, I've sort of, became a super host. I've gotten a badge from that. I've gotten like incredible reviews, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that's my shared, I call it, the title is International Jungle Stay.
Yeah, International Jungle is because you have like unique items from all over the world. So what kind of items do you have in that house?
Yeah, so I have I have two, a kind of mix of both. So I bring things from all over the world from my travels. So I have things from beautiful paintings, kind of memories from traveling, but it covers a wide range from countries from like Middle East, from Africa to China to Asia to Morocco. So and it's kind of part of the experience. So it's relatable to a lot of international, you know, um, travelers who want to come here, and that's the kind of the first thing that they connect to. The second thing I think I do really well is because I call it a jungle. I bring the earth inside my apartment. So if you come into my apartment and you see from my pictures, it's not a standard, Airbnb house with with a bed and a couch and the amenities. I actually sell the jungle part, which is all the beautiful plants that I bring from all over the world. So when you come in, looks like a tropical paradise.
Yeah.
I even have a hammock that you can sleep on in the living room that
Oh,
goes from wall to wall.
right.
Um, and then I have things from the earth, like I have pillows made from beautiful from flowers, and then I have a little water fountain. I have even an herb garden and like things that are made out of reclaimed wood, out of art. So if you can sense it, when you first come in, you really sense the most commented things on my Airbnb is, "Wow, Becky, it's so zen in here."
So Xenon,
Zen, Zen.
Zen. What does that mean?
Zen is like very peaceful and
Peaceful.
spiritual. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Right. I see. So you started this Airbnb listing in September. So did you just rent this place to do an Airbnb, or did you buy, or how did it work?
I actually, I'm a renter in my place, and so I rented my space. But I happen to live in a condo that you can also there's also owners. So yes, the other properties that I own, are 100% ownership. This is the only place I rent because I actually
Right.
work. Yeah.
Right. Okay, interesting. So, did you move in first, or did you start Airbnb like as soon as you start living
No,
there?
I moved in first. I've been here for about 4 years, and then I started Airbnb. But I
I
had a
see.
history of Airbnb before that, and then I decided to list my place.
Right. So you are managing like Airbnb in different locations like Texas and San Francisco.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So do you have any like how often do you have to visit those Airbnb listings in San Francisco and um, Texas?
Actually, not that often. And the reason why I say that is because my Airbnb usually gets booked, like at almost over 90%, sometimes 100%. So I would say Texas, I go about once every 3 months to 6 months. And then in San Francisco, I go maybe once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah.
And the property has been remained like properly cleaned and everything, right?
Yes, I have a
Yeah.
whole turnkey operation
Yeah.
that's very easy to do. I
Okay.
started in San Francisco, and yeah.
How does that work? Do you work with like third party agency or do you do it yourself? Like did you hire cleaner privately?
I actually like doing it myself because I like to know the quality of the service. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like a test thing at first. And so, like for example, in San Francisco, I wanted to find out who would be a good cleaner, someone who's reliable, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Consistent. And so it really started with that. I think you can hire a third party, but I just don't know any third parties out there. So it depends on what you need. But, for example, the one in Texas, I kind of gotten, um, cl- like a good cleaning service that between two people, right? Two kind of companies, small companies. And the rest are like, if anything needs to get fixed, I really have one person that I completely rely on if I need to. So it's actually very manageable. I do things like I have a keyless entry as
Yep.
well, one of my
Yep.
properties. So I don't even have to be there. I just open the door by my phone.
I see. And
Yeah.
that's everything is like automated, so you don't have to be there at all. You can do it remotely.
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
it doesn't work for everybody, but it depends on the property, I think.
Right. Have you ever had any kind of incident where you really have to visit there?
I do when it's like in between like renovations. Yeah, I've had one incident so when I actually come down to Texas just to
Okay.
make sure everything was is good. But I haven't had any really horrible guests. Actually, I actually screen my guests a little bit as
Oh,
well.
okay.
I'm a little different because I work remote. I mean, I'm a remote, so I every time I list my properties, I always don't do an automatic booking, which doesn't work for me, right? I do it where I actually allow them to ask for it, then I pre-approve. I look at their listing, I actually ask. I normally have kind of my own criteria,
Okay.
for picking people. I not most of the time I pick them. Yes, it's a yes, but there's one or two red flags that I don't pick I don't accept it, but it just really depends. Like a zero
Right.
review, like no history.
Mm-hmm.
It's like renting with someone with no rental history.
Right. So
I'm
you don't accept if someone doesn't have any history?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
I'm probably more leaning on the no.
Yeah,
Uh, so and I think that just worked out for me. Yeah.
I see. Do you ask any like follow-up questions before like to screen the guest?
Um, the only thing I like to know is like uh who's coming and how many guests. Really basic and the reason why. And it's really more for curiosity, nothing more.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what the audience are gonna be really interested is that how much you're actually making from your own rental property because you're living there, and how much is your rent per month?
Yeah, sure. My rent per month is 1850.
Right.
Uh so that's not including utilities. So I would say break even like 2100, right?
All
Like
right.
2,000 to 2,100, just depends on utilities.
Yep.
Um, I make a range when I'm listing it for myself, just outright with myself. It's about, I listed it for about 120 per day, which is about 30, I think over $3,000, right? 3,700. And when I'm here as a shared, which is the majority of the time, it's about, I put it in as $70, and that's about 2,100. So I pretty much, I'm sorry, 70 to $80 per month. I'm sorry, for the rating. So I definitely break even on the low side, or I make a little bit of a profit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So break even means that your Airbnb revenue or profit is going to cover your rental completely. That's the break even for you, right?
Yeah, break even like it, but based on like based upon depending on what my goal is, right? So
Mhm.
I can either break even, and I have increased it as well. So it depends on season and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when I give you that number, it's on the very low side, right? I've actually listed it for uh, $80 to $90 per day shared, and it covers it. It depends also on if I want to be here 100%, right? It depends on the occupancy. So it actually works out well. And given the test market that I've been doing this since September, it's actually working out well. But I've also underpriced myself, so I'm learning as I go, right? So I'm giving you early market data.
Right. So until now, around how many like percentage of the days that you've stayed there while Airbnb guests are there?
I would say in the percentage, I would say, I mean, shared or
Shared, yeah.
I would say, I would say 70% I've stayed here when it was a shared listing.
I see.
Yeah.
And rest of the 30% or you are away.
Yes. And it's usually the ones that are like booked over a week. Does that make sense? I've had bookings
Yeah.
for shared, you'd be surprised,
Hmm.
for over a week. And I might just kind of leave for, a couple days and, go somewhere else.
I see. So do
Yeah.
you so sounds like you decide your travel plan based on the Airbnb bookings you get.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah.
see. That's really smart, and it's interesting that that concept can work. So you've been breaking even like for past since September, and okay.
Yeah.
Um
Yep. And some
yeah.
months I like even make more, right? It just depends on the request and when, right? So I kind of also do testings on Airbnb. They call it smart pricing on there as well. So you can you can put that in advance in your calendar, and you can see people coming in and requesting your Airbnb and stay, right? So I kind of do that as well, like putting it out a month or two out just to
Yep.
see. And then I kind of adjust my, what I want to do. It really depends. It's really interesting because like with all the data analytics now, I mean, that
Yep.
kind of helps. However, I can't predict when people want to stay, but I can control what I can control, right?
Right.
Which is my listing.
I see. So, do you also do cleaning yourself for this property?
Yes and no. Most of the time, I actually hire somebody.
Right.
Uh, and honestly, it's not really much difficulty in cleaning this place. It's not a huge house, but
Mhm.
most of the time I hire somebody, and sometimes I don't. But definitely, it comes with the, if you look at my pictures, it looks super clean, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. Right. So, also wondered. So, since September, how many of the nights, like, what was your occupancy rate? I'm talking about like before the COVID-19.
When people, I would say, meaning, I would say it was probably around 85%. It was pretty good, actually. It was pretty decent. And
Right.
then COVID, obviously nothing, right? I actually unlisted it.
Okay.
But I also listed it recently as 100%, you can take it over. Uh,
Okay.
and so I've gotten one or two inquiries, but not a lot. I think we're still in that situation a little bit. People aren't ready to travel so much.
Right. Okay, that's clear. Yeah.
However, my other properties
Yep.
in Texas, people are ready to travel there. It's really state to state. So I've
Right.
got 100% occupancy there, like 90 to 100%. It's very high because everyone wants to move there, or
Hmm.
it depends on the city. So it's very interesting. It's different.
Right. So they so right. So what's the situation in San Francisco in contrast to or in comparison to Texas?
Um, San Francisco right now is actually 100% occupied. I've actually had very long-term folks that want to stay there. A lot of travelers want to stay there for business or like for work.
Yep.
The inventory in San Francisco, the properties there are very high. There's a little more restrictions in terms of like how you list specifically in San Francisco with occupancy tax. You got to list it as a business. So it's
Yep.
a little bit more challenging, right? But I was kind of grandfathered in and done it for 10 years that my listing has been up for 10 years. But so my listing there, the difference is I have someone staying there for the next 6 months.
Right.
So I don't really have to worry about it. And part of it is because just not a lot of inventory. I have a really good listing, and the way I listed it, people kind of scoop it up. I've got it scooped up in about a day. Um,
Right.
yeah.
So what's the like unique things about that that property in San Francisco? Like how did you do differently?
Yeah. So I listed, well, it's a one bed, it's a studio apartment with a Murphy bed. One of the things I listed it was the features of the apartment. So like uh, gingerbread, I listed things that are unique. I have a hot tub there.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
yep, I have bamboo floors and a beautiful kitchen where it's right near a farmer's market. So I kind of talk about, I give them a glimpse, I give a little glimpse of what the user can use the apartment for, right? It's a great
Right.
location near Chinatown. You can cook big meals. Um, it's beautifully decorated as well in terms of like the furniture in there as well. So what's unique about that? It's right near Nob Hill, so there's a lot of history to the building as
Yeah.
well. You go in the elevator, right, and there you have to go into one of those gated elevators that you pull, like a ricochet elevator, right? Um,
Okay, like you have to like open the elevator. It's not
Yeah, you have
open.
to open the elevator. So I actually show pictures of that. So
Uh-huh.
you look like you're walking into a building that is like 100 years old, but has modern features in the
Oh,
middle of Nob Hill. So I kind of listed it like that. Um, I have a church-like stained glass windows in my apartment, like as one of the door features. And so I show those little things that
yeah.
I think they really appreciate. That is very unique to San Francisco. When they think about San Francisco, they think of those big, beautiful houses. So like the gingerbread shelves is very unique to San Francisco. I'm 10 minutes away from a lot of different things. So you
Right.
don't need a car, and you don't need, you don't need, you just need public transportation. I also leave things like little things that make it easy for them to get around. Like I leave them um, a subway card. So
Right.
it's a free subway card. They put money on it. It's very convenient when they buy it, so they make it easy. I put a little book of history of San Francisco in the house,
Yep.
and so they kind of know what to do. So it's little things. It's just little things like that. But I think the key is great pictures, indication of like what benefits are there,
Yeah.
uh, and kind of they envision their stay already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So like you described it really like in details, show the pictures with the like description as well.
Yeah, I even put a manual together, and all my properties I put a manual in the bottom where I describe like things to see, things to
Yep.
see. Also, I do it a little bit further. For example, in DC, I have a separate manual for best top 10 Instagram pictures in DC, and I show the pictures, and it's like a little scavenger hunt, so they get to go do that. And so, I was going to do that for San Francisco next, but someone's staying there.
Yeah, I think that Instagram is a really good idea. But are there like specific demographics that are more interested in your like style?
Property.
Because yeah,
And yeah, I would say yes. So, for example, the demographics, like in DC, is definitely the short-term vacationers who want to visit DC,
yeah,
right? I get a lot of the folks that are here for business, short-term conferences. We get a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
2-3 days stay. In Texas, I would say it's more people, moving there, like short-term stays that are moving there in transition in their house. They're either transitioning to a city or they're transitioning in between homes. So that's why my bookings are a month, 2 months, 100% occupancy, right? But it's short term. And then San Francisco, I would say it is definitely more of a long-term stay, I would say. And then partly because of it's just a part of the restrictions, but the inventory is different. And so I have a lot of folks that are wanting to work there.
Right.
To find a place. So I provide them a place to stay for a couple months, and they end up staying almost like a long-term lease. So I don't really have to worry about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And earlier you've mentioned that you are looking for new properties to run Airbnb.
Yes.
Right. And what areas are you looking for, and what kind of criteria do you have?
So my next criteria, actually, Jessica, is I think the next big thing for me is doing a even more unique experience, like a teeny home or a tree house. So I've been looking at properties that have that like potential, or like a place where it's near certain features or location why people go down there and travel. It would be a short-term stay. But it's also about living in that space, but it has to be a unique space. It's not going to be any house that I buy. It's going to be, I might build it, or I might come out with a different concept. It's going to be either a tree house, tiny house with smart home features, something like that. Yeah.
I see. And are you thinking about any like location wise?
Yeah, I actually been looking at warmer locations. I'm going to try that next. So I've been looking down in, I just started. So I've been looking down in actually like Carolinas, Florida, that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. And also wanted to ask you this, since you are sharing your living space with an Airbnb guest as well, like not all the time, but like 70% of the time. How do you find it?
I didn't have any expectations except for maybe it's going to be a little bit, an adjustment.
Yeah.
But it actually has been such a positive experience. And the reason why is because I've met people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Who are like-minded travelers, who love, the most of them are foreigners, international, because I book it as an international jungle. I do have Americans as well, but it's been so positive. I've met people from, who come here for their conferences. Who have very unique jobs, come all walks of life, different age groups. We've had meals together in our kitchen, and it's not a requirement. I say that I'm not going to really be here and vice versa, but if it happens to be that way, great. I've actually been their Uber before, where they're, where they, didn't know how to go to the monument, so I give them a ride, like things like that. So the experiences, it really has evolved, and I didn't expect anything from it.
Right.
But the appreciation that I get from just, I think there is a hospitality component of it. It depends on how involved you want to get. But the reviews I've gotten have been like, Becky's been the best host I've ever had, or like this and that. I think it's part of the experience. So it really depends, but it's been extremely positive. Some of the guests I still keep in touch with as well. So I hear from them a lot, when we keep in touch on Instagram. But I have not had any bad experience. If anything, it's been only positive, and very unique. And people that I think the best part is that these people I would never meet in my daily life,
Right.
Yeah. So I think the most unique person I've met was someone who came here to look at, he's coming here for the Smithsonian, right? And he's here, he specializes in dinosaur bones, photographing them, he's like a scientist. So he was coming here to photograph these ancient bones that he had to report back to his nonprofit. So the times that we spoke, it was about these dinosaur bones that he was looking at. I would never have met him on the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the kind of experience that you can only get by doing these kind of like home
Yes.
rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it. So, you gotta have, I think it has to be a unique stay. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So you also told me that you are doing a side business where you help other Airbnb hosts to have some like unique decorations and items.
Yeah, two things that I do on as to help other Airbnb hosts is I do digital design websites. So I actually do a direct booking website for them
Right.
if they need it. That's a supplement to Airbnb.
Mhm.
It offers them an ability to control their website, their booking, their content. I come up with those are the customers that I have are the ones that can't come up with the content or don't know how to go about that. And so I built this custom-based website for them that is easy. They can do direct billing, direct bookings, all from their phone. It's mobile app and also direct. I also do their search engine optimization, so it lists them on a high ranking if they do that. The second part I do is kind of new, is curate my Airbnb, which is really the curating the furniture, the pieces in your home, like little things that you can purchase
Yep.
that might make your Airbnb a little bit more, interesting. So that is coming to play, and it's funny. It's a request that I've had from some of my customers saying, "Gosh, Becky, I wish I had your ideas of this X, Y, and Z, or whether it's furniture or things like that. They can purchase it because I purchase it from my website." Does that make
Right.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm just curious, like what kind of tech stack do you use to build a customized website?
I actually use when you tech, I
Like
use
from hosting
platform.
to from building like WordPress,
Yeah, I do.
GoDaddy. Mhm.
I actually do a couple. Like I can do Wix, WordPress, or I can do there's so many that you can use. GoDaddy, you can do a couple. It just depends. It depends on the customer and how complex they want it, right? If they want a
Right.
landing, you can do that on WordPress
Mhm.
pretty quickly. It just depends, and it also depends on how much they want to manage, right, or
Mhm.
how easy it is to manage. So I try to tailor it towards that.
Right. So do you also listed your listings on your personal website, private website?
I have only for my DC. I don't need to do it yet for my Texas and San Francisco. So
Right.
but I will. So depending on what happens in the future with Airbnb, I might do that on separately, just as a test. I mean, you have nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have nothing to lose.